Spoiler warning for Loki, episodes 1 through 5. Hello, I'm the Infinity Theorist, Quake spin-off enthusiast, and Loki, episode 5 gave us many variants of Loki and even brought Mobius back. It is also the setup to the takedown of the TVA. I am so excited about that. I'll be talking about the Easter eggs of episode 5, how it impacts the future of the MCU, and more in my review of an analysis of Loki, episode 5. As always, let's start with the notes I took on the episode. The first thing I have in my notes is about the tower that is at the start of the episode. That is not Stark Tower or Avengers Tower, it is Kang Tower. Kang could be a different spelling of Kang. The tower is spelled Q-E-N-G, while Kang is K-A-N-G, as in Kang the Conqueror, a Marvel villain who conquers timelines, who we know is coming in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and is being portrayed by Jonathan Majors. We find out the giant cloud monster is actually Goliath. The Marvel Comics fandom Wikipedia page describes Goliath as the first being who broke free from the constraints of time. His empire is larger than that of Kang himself, stretching billions of years to before the rise of man on Earth. His domain is approximately 2 to 3 times as large as Kang's temporal empire. I won't say anything more. Renslayer tells Sylvie how the TVA prunes reality. Since the law of conservation of mass exists, they can't destroy the matter that exists in the timeline, so they send it all to the Void for, unbeknownst to the TVA, Goliath to eat. Renslayer also mentions how the Void is the actual end of time, where all points of existence come together and simply stop. Thought a little bit about this. While it makes no sense at all, I thought of the heat death of the universe. Now, I'm no expert on theoretical science, even though I very much enjoy talking about it, but let me try to explain this scientific theory about the end of the universe. So, at the end of the universe, there will be no thermodynamic free energy, which would mean entropy wouldn't be possible. Entropy, according to Google Dictionary, is a thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, often interpreted as the degree of disorder or randomness in the system. The very abridged version of the heat death of the universe is that this is when things stop happening. That kind of sounds like Renslayer's description of the Void, right? Just saying, sounds interesting. We cut back to the Void, where Loki is confused about what's going on, and after everything is explained to him, and we find out Kid Loki's next event was killing Thor, we can see some Easter eggs in the Void. A yellow jacket helmet is in the background, then outside of the hideout there is a bomb of some sort, and, of course, the beloved Thanos copter. The yellow helicopter Thanos had in the comics in 2 issues that was memed about for Infinity War and Endgame. It was in a 1979 issue of Spidey Super Stories and the 2015 issue of Deadpool. As the Lokis go into the hideout, you can see Thor's hammer Mjolnir. Trying to reach it is variant T365, the frog variant of Thor, the Frog of Thunder, Throg. Yes, Throg does appear in the comics. In the hideout, we can see Kid Loki's throne is surrounded by candy canes and bowling pins. Around the room, you can see some other interesting things, including a popcorn machine, a pinball machine, and a Polybius arcade game. To be honest, I thought about titling this video Popcorn, Pinball, and Polybius, Loki 105 review, but decided against it. Polybius is actually an urban legend dating back to the start of the century. In the year 2000, an urban legend gained popularity about an arcade game that supposedly existed in the 80s. This game was said to have been the result of a government experiment on addiction. There's no proof of this game ever existing, but there are a couple real-life games that say they tried to make their game as accurate to the original as possible. We cut back to Sylvie and Renslayer, where Renslayer asks Miss Minutes for files in the beginning and end of time. They talk about the Void, and Miss Minutes suggests they should take the Void spacecraft to find Loki. Sylvie doesn't believe this, and it turns out it is not a real thing. Renslayer says that if Sylvie comes out, she can live in a good memory, and apparently Sylvie only has one good memory. Probably that moment with herself. Moment with Loki on Lamentus. Then she self-prunes herself, and we cut to Alligator Loki drinking Roxy wine, most likely Roxxon branded wine. The Lokis share the next events. Boastful Loki says that he vanquished Captain America and Iron Man and then claimed his prize, which is apparently all 6 Infinity Stones. Though, as his name implies, he was bragging and was probably exaggerating. Boastful Loki was probably a fisherman. Apparently, everyone's favorite Loki Alligator Loki's Nexus event was eating the wrong neighbor's cat.
Time. Well, at least my Nexus event wasn't eating the wrong neighbor's cat.
Classic Loki escaped Thanos apparently through duplication casting. He landed on a remote planet and lived there for a long time. His Nexus event was leaving. There have been theories that Loki escaped Thanos in Infinity War, and now it is kind of confirmed that he did. He escaped Thanos. They could bring back the Loki we've known since 2011 by using this excuse at any time. That's exciting, I guess. Classic Loki toasts to the god of outcasts, and I find it kind of funny that Kid Loki drinks from a juice box in this scene. Like, even Alligator Loki had wine. Anyway, that juice box is actually a Ghostbusters tie-in drink that was just randomly discontinued one day. Loki sure is finding ways to solve some mysteries. Loki's plan is to kill Goliath, and all of the other Lokis make fun of him. Loki leaves and discovers more variants of himself outside the hideout, saying, "This is a nightmare." Sylvie wakes up in a school bus that I believe says Stark Independent School District. I could be wrong, though. She then has a close call with Goliath and has a sort of vision of some castle that I will not talk about here. Mobius comes to pick Sylvie up driving a Skinny's pizza car and tells her that she really is one of her. What he means is that she really is a Loki, which is interesting considering Loki and Sylvie consider themselves to be very different people. When we cut back to the Lokis, we see that boastful Loki betrayed the main Lokis, only for President Loki to double-cross boastful Loki as well. President Loki gets his hand cut off, and this starts a Loki fight, where every Loki variant starts fighting themselves? Each other? I want to take a minute to talk about that hand thing. In Phase 2 of the MCU, every movie had a character with a limb chopped off. Considering when Loki takes place, this makes sense. The Avengers just ended, meaning Phase 2 is starting in Loki's timeline. Anyway, classic Loki projects an illusion of him and his allies to continue the fight while they escape. At one point, Illusion Kid Loki and Illusion Alligator Loki do get help. That thing that Thor and Loki did in Ragnarok. Classic Loki and Kid Loki explain why Loki's backstack people. They do it for power, glorious purpose, and because they are broken, every single one of them. And when any of them try to fix themselves, the TVA sends them to the void. The story of Loki always seems to end up as a tragedy. Maybe that's why Loki wrote the tragedy of Loki of Asgard in Thor Ragnarok. Sorry, Thor Salad. We cut back to Mobius and Sylvie, and what's that on the dashboard? Could it be the hula girl from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and WandaVision? What could this mean? Loki, WandaVision, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all of these have multiversal elements. AOS and Loki have the literal multiverse, and WandaVision has that one mention of the word Nexus. Why do they connect with this hula girl? Will Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters come back to the MCU? Will we get a Quake spinoff? Mobius explains to Sylvie his old idea of the TVA. They both say they did what they had to do, and we go to the Lokis again, who are heading towards Elias. They see the USS Eldridge get pruned as Elias eats the passengers. Now, let me explain the USS Eldridge and what it was in real life. The Eldridge was a real-life World War II ship that got involved in a UFO hoax. In 1955, Morris K. Jessup received letters where people claimed the ship was docked in Philadelphia but was invisible. They also went one step further, saying it wasn't just invisible, it was sent to another dimension. These letters were obviously fake, but that's another mystery Loki is solving. Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius have a reunion. The other Lokis think Loki is insane for going up to the car until they realize that Sylvie is the variant Loki told them about. Loki introduces Sylvie to the other variants and they discuss their plans. B-15 tells us that Sylvie will find the person behind Elias before Ravonna because Renslayer only wants it, Sylvie needs it. Renslayer asks Miss Minutes for files in the beginning of time, and we go back to the void. Mobius says he doesn't remember Alligator Loki and says that Alligator Loki could be lying. He goes on to say Alligator Loki lying would just make him more likely to be a Loki. Mobius turns his back on everything he's ever known in order to fight for what he believes in, teaching us a very important life lesson on the way. He says that it's never too late to change. That pretty much sums up the moral of the show. Mobius changes and turns his back on the TVA, Loki changes and decides to become a good person, and everyone in the show seems to have a change of heart about something, and I think that's beautiful. Loki and Sylvie talk about how Mobius isn't so bad or so good, which is why Loki and Mobius get along. Sylvie also says that Mobius cares about Loki, a sign that their friendship exists and is visible to other people. That's a lot of progress in just a few episodes. Loki says that he's cold, which really makes no sense considering he's a frost giant, and being cold is kind of their nature, so he conjures a blanket for himself, offering one to Sylvie as well. Sylvie responds by saying that Loki should conjure her a new outfit as it was very uncomfortable. They then talk about Mobius' theory, about their next events on Lamentis, and conclude that there are more important things to do, like taking down TVA, which is basically saving the universe. Loki gives Sylvie a blanket, and Sylvie complains that it's not comfortable. She then gets over and thanks Loki, with him replying with, "My pleasure." Sylvie asks Loki how she will know he won't betray her, with Loki explaining that he betrayed everyone he ever loved and lost them all. He doesn't want that to happen with Sylvie. They talk about what they will do when everything's over, and neither of them knows. The Lokis start their journey to Eliath, and in the background you can see a Dark Aster variant. The Dark Aster, if you remember, is the Kree ship from Guardians of the Galaxy. The one that Ronan, the Accuser, used. So there is another Easter egg to the MCU's past. Kid Loki gives Loki his golden dagger. Everyone says their goodbyes, and with Mobius saying he's going to burn the TVA to the ground. Him and Loki hug, and Mobius tells Sylvie that she is his favorite, giving the fandom a new meme template. I actually use this template on my Instagram, so go to instagram.com/infinitytheorists. Shameless self-promo. In the background, we can see yet another Easter egg to the MCU's history. We can see a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. Do I even have to explain why this is important? Oh, I do? Well, it's important because it is the primary vehicle used by S.H.I.E.L.D. in Phases 1 and 2, and is also used in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Loki distracts Eliath with a dagger on fire while Sylvie tries to enchant it. This doesn't work, so classic Loki illusion projects the entirety of Asgard, which makes Loki realize how strong he really is. Then Loki and Sylvie work together to enchant Eliath, while classic Loki shouts, "Glorious purpose." Loki closes his eyes to concentrate on the enchantment, and he and Sylvie defeat Eliath. Loki opens his eyes as the clouds part and a castle is revealed. I will not talk about the castle, as that would spoil episode 6, and I'm not going to do that here. Before we get into the review, I would like to mention that I have a podcast. It is called Infinity Theorist Unscripted Rants, or ITOR for short. I mostly talk about fandom, but sometimes I'll go off topic or just plain not know what I'm talking about. Don't worry, you'll get used to that. It is available wherever you get your podcasts, and there is a link to it in the description. Hey, while you're doing the description, let me tell you about Infinity 600, a project for a world record. It's a project I created as a kind of internet community thing. There will be 600 participants, and every participant will contribute 1 hour of footage that will be edited into the longest video on YouTube. If that sounds interesting to you, sign up. It is completely free, and the full rules are in the website, which is in the description, as I just said. Just a few more things in the description: my live channel, my TikTok, and my Instagram. I do live streams sometimes, very rarely, and also very rarely I post on TikTok. I do post on Instagram, not very often, but more often than the others. Now for the review. First, the title review. This episode is called Journey into Mystery. I really like this title, but it feels a little out of place. It tells us that the characters are journeying into a mystery. I like the title, but it doesn't really tell us much compared to a title like Glorious Purpose. This is kind of weak. Episode 1 had a great title, by the way. My fondness for it only continues to grow. I'll give the title Episode 5 a 90 out of 100. Right on the, it's good, but it's not bad line. That's the line, in my opinion. As for the episode, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were some weird moments, like every moment where Loki and Sylvie act like a couple, but I did think it added a lot to the story. It gave us so many Loki variants, including an alligator, and even brought back fan favorite Mobius. I'll give the episode a 95 out of 100. That is a great score. It is right there on the A+ line. That averages out to 92 out of 100, a very good score for the episode. Alright. You can watch another video by clicking the top left, top right, and bottom left corners of the screen. But before you do that, click the bottom right corner of the screen to subscribe, then click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos like this. More reviews and more theories, just all the videos that I'm going to be making. So yeah, if you want to see more videos of mine, subscribe. Alright, everything I have for you today. Goodbye.